Video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Divine Ascension Illumination, and to join me on this extensive cataloging for a technical wearable construct shall be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, which I'll be referencing quite a bit for various chakra stimulation sequences. So without further ado, as a good way to start, we'll be discussing the figure 8 blade band scaffolding, seen like so, going up to this lateral band right here, up to here, laterally once again, and conjoining right here, as well as the apex band right here, which obviously has been developed for a necklace to be suspended. And so the aspect of the blade band scaffolding serves as an energetic recirculation containment field to redirect the current in what vaguely is an homage to 8 or infinity as a very nice recirculation modality. And first things first, as a good way to, of course, get cracking on this very intensive catalog for a talisman, that is, would be the blade band scaffolding of the transmutation ratio. So seen from this lateral band of smoke quartz and hematite in ignition sequence up this side band, and this lateral band up here, and conjoining back down here, will be its own quadrant of the transmutation ratio, which plays quite the crucial role in virtually all light tech that comes into operational status through my hands for distribution. And particularly when it comes to very, very ambitious high-yield renditions, such as this very high-yield wand, as a quick preface, the aspect of transmutation becomes even more contingent for effectuality and efficiency for such a dynamic overture, which will make more sense as I continue this dissertation. Starting off with smoky quartz, which provides a very powerful grounding stimulation that stimulates the root chakra very effectively, grounding excess energy through the earth stars into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing, in tandem with hematite, providing the same energetic stimuli function point to be an iron-based mineral to successfully take all stray radial energies and firmly ground it through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. Hence the two together have been deemed the transmutation ratio to essentially work as a very effective grounding contingency, or also an etheric dialysis agent to rapidly transmit and transmute, and of course grounded the earth for consistent reprocessing, which is highly discouraging for negative vibrations to stay in the field with that much rapid onset transmutation, as well as it makes for a very effective insulation energy shield that mitigates stray bombardments from basically sticking in the auric field, so they get rapidly rerouted very quickly. And also, in such a very ambitiously high-yield talisman in front of us for this dissertation, it also serves to take the entirety of the contact patch of exotic crystalline range and give it a firm ground through its own lightblade scaffolding subroutine, which is quite essential for actually making the magic real as well, to bring it into tangible earth plane grounding, which is always the big progress and big prerogative of the transmutation ratio in any variation, which is quite contingent and crucial for the tangibility of the endeavor. Next, I'll be getting into the apex band, which has been grounded into the transmutation ratio, which of course has been developed to be a place to suspend the construct while being worn as a talisman. And that it would be of the coherence ratio, starting off with lapis lazuli, which is a very fantastic blue-ray classic crystal of antiquity of 5th and 6th chakra stimulation, which has enjoyed great praise through millennia of magic utilization, which I will omit a lot of because there's already much to catalog here for somewhat, practical purposes of this endeavor, without getting too sidetracked in the lore, which is not easy to do. It takes a great amount of discipline to stay on target with such a comprehensive coherent dissertation, such as tourmalated quartz in between the lapis lazuli. Tourmalated quartz is clear quartz with black tourmaline inside the structure. So clear quartz by itself makes a lovely neutral natural amplifier of other frequencies in resonance proximity. But the aspect of the black tourmaline found in the structure also makes for another massive internalized amplification of black tourmaline, which is another black ray crystal of transmutation by high earth star stimulation for consistent reprocessing. So that makes for a very nice subcapacitation of this particular ratio to have a very clear, coherent field, which will be very, very important to, of course, coherently wield this super duper dynamic construct as I continue on as a preface. And then joining that right there would be purple fluorite. Purple fluorite is a very fantastic 6th chakra stimulant of wind elemental focus, but also has the impeccable coherence alignment between the left and right hemispheres, aka cross interference mitigation between the left and right hemispheres equals whole brain thinking of the awakened third eye. So that aspect right there plays quite the important role for the coherence ratio at large, which has become its own independent platform at this point, gaining natural self-replication at this time period. So that aspect goes back into tourmalated quartz once again, then lapis, and then tourmaline quartz into fluorite, and grounds back into the transmutation scaffolding to serve as a common ground for these exotic blade band wavelengths. So the aspect of why the coherence ratio has been employed here is that this technically wearable lightblade talisman that almost doubles as a wand with proper focalizers installed does produce quite the significant spiritual Gs. And so having a very coherent subroutine to increase one's clarity with high wielding of magic is that of a very important contingent efficiency subroutine, basically, which will make more sense with the primary blade band, that is that of the divine ascension illumination concentration. Starting off with root-talated quartz, which works as a massive accelerant of other frequencies in a sequence, which is clear quartz with bands of rutile, which is a titanium oxide derivative that makes for a very sheer intensification of the quartz structure. Then going into chaurite, also a larger specimen seen right here for a very prominent heavy dose. Chaurite is perhaps the most versatile and, I guess pragmatically saying, all-encompassing violet ray dharmic accelerants in the mineral kingdom to be employed. Chaurite, seen right here, is a very amazing 6, 7, 8 non-physical chakra stimulant, of course, indicative of its violet ray stimulation. But the aspect of the black dendric, as well as the calcite seen in the structure, has its own independent full light body subroutine of stimulation, with the black dendric being a very powerful Earth star fortification to successfully ground this high ethereal radial energy into the Earth by itself without the engineering contingencies for efficiency. So it makes for its own independent, massive, full light body activator in its own right, which is very nice. And with the calcite found in the structure is also another way to clear densities impeding one's highest flow from the Earth star to Soul star in one shot. So by itself, it's already quite the tremendous master frequency dharmic accelerant. And that's why, of course, it's been heavily augmented with many other supporting variables, which will make more sense as this video goes. But that's the aspect of the chaurite as the primary purple ray focus between here that completes the sequence. Then gets into golden healer quartz, which is the quintessential gold white light high heart source attunement, which is pretty self-evidently very advantageous for a vibration engineering endeavor to have a direct, clean, resonant attunement to the heart of creation does have its own merit. I say that with of course, almost sarcasm and being facetious, because that's pretty funny to say out loud in a pragmatic straight face, almost. And so that aspect of the root-talated quartz intensifying the chaurite, then of course going into source emanation, makes for a very intensely high yield purification source emanation overlap, which is by design in this particular blade band sequence. And then continues on so with the chaurite, the root-talated quartz, the chaurite, the golden healer quartz, until it completes the sequence back into the transmutation ratio, which of course serves as a quadrant, as a common ground, which will be very, very, very important to actually get the rubber on the road with such an ambitious high-yield construct. So it took me nearly 9 minutes just to describe the blade band ratios in the one sequence. Now I'll be discussing the blade facing. Oh, be good. Placemat. Seen right here. And so before I do that, of course, as a preface and preliminary, I discussed the blade band scaffolding that works as the recirculation of the excessive amount of energy that's been in one closed loop terminated apparatus, or a crystalline entity, if you would. And so all these other crystals yet to be mentioned, seen right here, they've all somehow, some way been terminated to the central primary wire of copper, brass, and silver for a nice trifecta diffusion of the current to serve as the main vein. So each of these crystals we'll be mentioning now will be generating significant vibrational compound interest through the entire apparatus that is, of course, being developed to recirculate the energy of this figure 8 apparatus, basically. Starting off with star argonite at the very apex, which is a very crucial master healer of a calcium-based crystal that is quite simply, one of the holy trinity of master healers I employ quite frequently, which I will, of course, talk about these three quite a bit for full reiteration dissertation, because I consider it quite the priority of this construct. And so, with the aspect of Star Argonite, Tibetan Black Quartz, and Seraphonite play the quintessential role of Holy Trinity Master Healers in the Mineral Kingdom, which, while of course, we'll get more into depth once I get to the appropriate designations for cataloging. But I wanted to give that a quick little preface because Star Argonite is a very fantastic full light-body instrument from top to bottom that activates the entire chakra column and works very diligently, but very gently, but very clearly and very powerfully to clear blockages found in the entire chakra column from top to bottom as a full light-body instrument. So that, of course, would be very, very discouraging for patrons of any kind of dis-ease or misfire in the chakra column to maintain the field that much healing transference capacity by itself. Then right here is a lovely larger specimen of chaurite, much like the blade band, which I already discussed in great depth, but a very heavy, prominent, obvious dose of that purple ray wonder of the mineral kingdom for metaphysical vibration engineering application, which is worth highlighting once again. Then right here is another classic stone that's been a favorite of millions for thousands of years, that of turquoise. So turquoise has great amount of lore and legend, which I will omit because this already will be a very long dissertation, but the aspect makes it pragmatic and relevant here to be discussed is the impeccable fifth chakra focus of turquoise is a derivative of earth, fire, water, and wind, the four terrestrial elements in one wholeness focus, the fifth chakra. Hence it's a very well loved and praised stone and a true ancient grandfather ally for this purpose. So turquoise, of course, is very, very famous in the annals of magical history, but the aspect of turquoise also with its impeccable fifth chakra stimulation of the four terrestrial elements also works as a very lovely full pranic healing generator of wholeness and quite simply good healing impeccable vibrations. Hence it's enjoyed quite the legendary love by millions for thousands of years. Now this side will get a little spicier because it has a very, very high yield dharmic acceleration configuration, starting off with Libyan gold tektite, which is a very lovely golden ray crystal of great mysterious origin, much like moldavite seen right here. So as a fun joke, I refer to it as goldavite because it's effectively a vibrational cousin to the green ray wonder that's gained quite acclaim and legendary lore and application in this modern era. So Libyan gold tektite was actually a lovely gold ray crystal utilized by the pharaohs of Egypt in antiquity as a powerful, very, very mighty sovereign enhancement, which was actually installed in the magi breastplates of antiquity, hence, of course, indicative of their badge of office were these crazy power plant breastplates. And this would oftentimes be carved into scarab beetles, and very cool magical lore that was worth discussing because that's very, very neat. But the aspect also of Libyan gold tektite is a cardinal fire elemental stimulant of the solar plexus and the sacrum, yet a gold ray of illumination that illuminates the entire auric field as a whole. So it is a quintessential manifestation dharmic accelerant, also a very powerful confidence and enthusiasm generator, and of course a very powerful sovereign fortification of one's reserves in a lot of ways, and a very, very powerful boon to manifestation in general. Very, very regal, powerful, obscure, magical stuff, but it's very well placed here with this space crystal magic routine right here. Speaking of another space magic crystal, this would be black tektite. This is a product of meteorite impacting sand, carrying that extraterrestrial cosmic jolt into 3D creation upon impact. So luckily it's a black ray crystal of heaven to earth frequency, which makes it a very nice raising of vibrations from the base scaffolding of the Earth stars up, of literally raising vibrations to a very cosmic threshold, which is very, very fortifying for the entire light body's foundational scaffolding, which is quite essential when it comes to the practicality and tangibility of magic for purposes of actually wieldability, as far as I'm concerned. So black tektite is a very fantastic full fortifier of the entire energy from the bottom to top, which is very nice. Then, above that would be its very famous cousin at this point, green ray moldavite, another space tektite, which is a very mysterious crystal of great potency and power, which has gained quite a bit of lore and recognition as a holy grail emanation frequency alignment. Moldavite is quite the infamous massive heart chakra dharmic accelerant of unparalleled potency in the mineral kingdom to dramatically align one's truest in essence, to their highest path, which can be quite destructive to the false self matrix. Hence, it's getting quite the infamous rap of destroying people's lives due to the onset dharmic acceleration, alchemical crucible intensification, quite simply. And so Moldavite, in a small dose with many contingencies yet to be mentioned in grounders, is developed to, of course, get the most out of that massive timeline jump without well, basically by mitigating the timeline whiplash as much as possible. But quite simply, Moldavite is not a crystal to be taken lightly. It's not to be trifled with uncasually. It's for the serious adept who's very serious about their true dharmic service, and hence for the true initiate who is seeking their fully self-realized avatar state, is quite the amazing frequency to have in a subcapacitation apparatus. Anyhow, moving on to another sunny fun stone called Sunstone. Sunstone is a very fantastic solar plexus and sacrum stimulant of great beneficence and joy and confidence, and also a very, very positive, fun, sunny vibration of enthusiasm. So it's a very fantastic application here. Then right next to that would be ruby and zoisite, which actually has ruby, a lovely root chakra stimulant of great acclaim, of course, as the most powerful root chakra mineral kingdom. Then in the matrix, it also has zoisite, which is a quintessential heart-mind coherence stimulant, which is very, very advantageous for the spiritual adept as well. When you combine the trifecta of the zest for life gusto and the heart-mind coherence of ruby and zoisite, it makes for a truly dynamic powerhouse to really align one's truth into reality of who they really are in truth, without the false self-imprintation matrices that we endure as a modern species. So that's pretty neat. Then right here, this is a clear quartz that has been affixed to a natural raw white diamond. So diamond, of course, is the quintessential legendary crystal of precious notoriety, and has been heard of by all mortals as a true precious stone for actually a very good reason. It's a 10 out of 10 white ray carbon-based hardness that makes for a very intense, vivid, full light body activation as well, very particularly towards the heart-mind coherence and the third eye. Diamond is very, very sheer, regal intensity of literally 10 out of 10 carbon hardness, which is very compatible with our carbon-based avatars for now. And so that is a very, very, even a small dose in a closed reactive circuit goes a very long way to intensify with diamond strength the threshold of this vibratory output. So that's very neat. Then right next to that on both sides would be a very special cinnabar right here. Cinnabar is a mercury-based crystal, but since it's been tumbled in bead format, it is not toxic. Luckily, it doesn't shed anymore, so that's a very, very nice application for cinnabar when it's actually tumbled like so. But the aspect of cinnabar has a very, very intensive root chakra, sacrum, and third eye stimulation that basically puts one in the realm of magic or quantum alteration subtleties, or basically is a quintessential sorcerer, wizard archetype energy to align to put one's conscious self into the flow of the atomical weave of the universe. It gets very far out, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there and describe more to the recipient when we debrief when he gets this. Anyhow, so that would just be the blade facing of this very, very high yield, ambitious, technically a talisman you can wear, just right there. Next, I'll be discussing the section where this white leather hood will be installed for a very important purpose, far more than aesthetic. So the white leather makes for a very another color ray diffusion, which is very supportive to the entire rainbow spectrum of unified white field light, which is very nice for this divine essential illumination platform. It also works to, of course, protect all these stones seen right here. So, of course, it can be wielded with less worries of anything coming loose from this crystalline entity, as well as a very important feature too. It works to insulate this energy, so it mitigates the lateral basic leakages of energy going this way, so it actually gets more condensed and more focused through the primary and apex blade band. So it actually is indeed a very, very critical component, not for aesthetics primarily. And also, of course, once it's properly installed, since I'm at it, it will be very aesthetically pleasing. Based on its installation, it does look nice once it's fully operational, but indeed has a very pivotal purpose, far more than looks. So that would be the white leather hood. Now I'll be discussing this segment of Under the Hood in one shot because they're quite pivotal for playing off each other for a very contingent role as well. Starting off with the jaspers and the agates seen like so. So these vibrations of jaspers and agates are the most stable variations based on the color range as well as the elemental correspondence in the mineral kingdom. So that will make more sense right now as I get into it. With red jasper being the quintessential red ray root chakra stabilizer of earth in the mineral kingdom. Then going into fire agate, the most stable fire elemental composition in the mineral kingdom, with the stimulation of the solar plexus, the sacrum, and the base. Then going into moss green agate, which is a green ray water elemental stabilization of the heart chakra. Then combine that with blue lace agate, would be water as well, to stabilize the fifth chakra. Then holly blue agate, which is actually a purple agate seen right here, is a wind elemental stabilization of the 6th and 7th chakras, thereby stabilizing the 4 terrestrial elements of earth, fire, water, and wind. Is actually quite important for such a dramatically high yield wearable superconductor to have, of course, the stabilizations of the 4 terrestrial elements to diffuse it, and most importantly, I'll say it again, the most stable formats possible. So that is, of course, a very important another contingency implementation to diffuse this excessively high divine current in a very palpable, useful manner, most importantly. I'm not trying to blow people out here. God willing. Then right here, this would be, of course, a very lovely specimen of rose quartz, a classic pink ray crystal of antiquity. It is luckily very common to be a lovely divine love alignment frequency, which is very helpful in every circumstance. Then above that, this would be morganite. Morganite actually is a pink beryl family, so it's also called pink emerald, which has an 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, which means its pink ray vibration is very dense and very strong of that of divine love. So that's a very, very powerful pink ray crystal to be employed right there. Then over here, this would be scolecite. Scolecite is another beautiful white ray stone of quintessential divinity that is a very lovely 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant of one's divine mind alignment. So it also makes for a very fantastic anti-anxiety agent through divine witness self alignment to the conscious self, which is very helpful for high spiritual adeptship, I guess you could say. So it's another one of those amazing quintessential white ray stones of divinity that have a very, very soothing divine mind overture. Then down here, it wouldn't be complete as a superconductor without a bunch of with lightning strapped to it. So that right there is fulgurite. That is literally the product of lightning striking sand, making a crystal from the intensive heat that is 3 times harder than the surface of the sun when it strikes. And it hits at 1.21 gigawatts, according to Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And so, the aspect of fulgurite was actually a very classically utilized spirit tool of antiquity for the shamans to actually resonate with the power of lightning to intensify their prayers by literally harnessing the power of lightning. It also makes for a very fantastic full light body activator as well, because it literally is lightning power coursing through the entire chakra column. So it also makes for a very powerful manifestation aid agent and a very vivid energizer in a lot of ways, because it literally is the power of lightning in a closed loop operating status with many different variables strapped to it. Oh, goodness. And then, okay, so back to the triumphant trifecta or Holy Trinity Master Healers, like Star Argonite. This would be seraphinite. A green ray crystal of named after the Seraphim Archangels is a very powerful, full light body healer as well and stimulant. And just like Star Argonite, works very powerfully through the entire chakra column to dismantle patterns of dis-ease or misfires of the false self-matricy that manifest as a problem, basically. Anyway. Enough digressions, back to cataloging. Then to join that exact quest as well would be Tibetan black quartz. From Tibet, a region of the earth with virtually unrivaled spiritual discipline, recorded history of Om resonance alignment. So just like the other guys mentioned, Tibetan black quartz also works as a very powerful full light body stimulant that works very powerfully to dismantle patterns of dis-ease, as well as a fantastic toroidal field fortifier to dramatically expand the rooting of the earth stars, as well as the higher chakras of the soul star above, like a toroidal field intensification, basically, and purification, most importantly, for practical application. And so the three together, the Holy Trinity, of course, work very powerfully together for very, very powerful healing vibrations from top to bottom. That's that. Then over here underneath the morganite is another black-gray crystal in vogue called shungite. So even a small dose of shungite in this closed branching circuit is very effective for carbon-based black-gray purification of the energy field, as well as is quite in vogue these days for being a fantastic mitigation of 5G or unnatural harmful wavelengths we once again contend with as modern species to successfully charcoal filter and transmute those bad vibrations into the earth for reprocessing, like many other aspects of the black-gray transmutation theme. And that actually would be the hood right there. Now I'll be discussing the very apex of the core of this crystal right here of smoky celestial quartz. So, smoky celestial quartz, much like smoky quartz mentioned in the transmutation subroutine blade band scaffolding, is a very fantastic rounder into the earth, but the aspect that makes it quite remarkable is the growth structure seen right here. The celestial growth structure has a certain way to resonate with the auric field to be a perfect dimmer switch or auto-regulator to govern the frequency pitch at a very comfortable ingestible adaptogen ratio with the auric field of whoever's wielding it. For example, primary wielder will wear this. It will also work to really be very dynamic and auto-adapt to requirements of any proximity field in contact, which is quite meta and quite intense and quite far out to discuss in a linear, coherent fashion, but I do my best with this very far out topic every time. I'll get it someday perfectly. And so the aspect also of the celestial, works as, like I said, an adaptogen. They'll take the entire frequency pitch and put it in a very comfortable ingestible range, which basically, of course, governs the frequency flush at the guidance of the higher self. It gets very complicated, but basically intensifies or decreases the vibration as needed for maximum equilibrium comfortability at all times. So it's a very critical contingency of comfortability and efficiency also is found in this celestial structure. All right, so now I'll be doing the closing remarks on the wooden core itself. So this entire apparatus has been built upon a carbon-based wooden core from Sedona, Arizona, from Bell Rock very specifically, which is a very powerful power plant in the Earth Meridian Matrix that's quite famous. And so the wood from this guy is that of juniper. And so that's found in that very powerful vorticey grown space, which actually the branch that this came off of, a tree buddy of mine out there, actually grows in a spiral, which is very neat and very indicative of its spiral vorticey growth, which is very cool. But of course, it's been sanded to be very much a flat construct, to be the core of the device. And why that's important too is based on the carbon-based locality of very intensive magical amplification that Sedona, Arizona is famous for. It also works as a carbon-based platform for the intensive silica energy emanation wrapped around it to further transfer the energy into a carbon-based physical body avatar for now, to make it the magic quite simply more real and more aligned with the earth plane of bringing it into tangibility quite simply. So that's why the wooden core is there. And next I'll be discussing the selenites, the kyanites, and the focalizers seen right here. So I guess I'll discuss the focalizers first before I do the comprehensive capstone here, because most of these talismans in a distribution of existence, even the one I'm wearing right now for this description video, do not have these focalizers installed because oftentimes that's saved for a lightblade wand. But the aspect of this intensely ambitious high-yield superconductor is that of almost a wearable wand, where eventually, once of course it's properly strapped up and basically wieldable and wearable, it'll have this leather hood installed to which basically can almost serve as a handle with the directional focus of the focalizer crystals to actually work to successfully direct current to trees, for example. Just a quick little illustration. But the aspect of focalizers on lightblade talismans is actually very rare, and they're usually reserved for very intensively high-yield serious platforms. And that consists of the titanium ore quartz back here, which serves as a pressure-coated, modern alchemical man-made structure of titanium pressure-coated quartz, which is a very vivid fortification of the entire rainbow light body, and also why they're employed as a backup to the clear quartz is to further intensify the entire emanation of the directional focus. And so the aspect also of Lemurian clear quartz being the main focalizers is very, very lovely specimen of clear quartz, which I made a bunch of, but it also serves as a very fantastic neutral amplification of the entire emanations, particularly giving it a sharp focus, because these focalizers have been grounded into the primary wire, so it's capitalizing on the entire figure-eight energetic scaffolding, then given into a sharper directional focus, which can be honestly be wielded like a wand when being worn, for example, to really give that direct focus of the excess energy a sharp pitch direction. Alright, so that's the focalizers. Now I'll be discussing the functions of the selenite seen on both sides hewn to the core. So this white ray crystal, now very well concealed by many other auxiliary components, is quite the critical function as well. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra student that effectively clears debris between one's highest self and one's conscious self, which is a very, very advantageous frequency resonance for a spiritual adept, obviously. And with that high frequency induction, it also makes for a fantastic transmutation of stagnant energy found through the entire system. That is not of one's divine alignment essence, quite simply, which is very, very advantageous master healer in its own right. So it has quite the noteworthy praise thus far as a preface, but now this is where it truly shines in this 30.5 minutes of me ranting about this construct. And it takes the selenite in a closed loop circuit, takes the entire crystalline octave pitch range of all its organs. It works with all these crystals to purify all of these crystals. It also works to amplify or intensify all these crystals, but perhaps most importantly, brings equilibrium to the entire crystalline pitch, or harmony, I should say, which makes it truly a triumphant trifecta of spiritual tool efficiency, far as I'm concerned. Based on its own merits of its massive expansion, connection, clearing debris between one's conscious and one's higher self, but also takes the entire pitch and once again purifies, amplifies, and harmonizes the entire wavelength. Is always why I save that for last in these dissertations as a comprehensive capstone. And affixed to the white selenite on both sides would be the 4 spectrums of kyanite I have easily available to me, such as black kyanite, orange kyanite, green kyanite, and blue kyanite. And for this next section, I'll be using my whimsically fast penmanship to do my best to illustrate their capacity to transfer energy very effectively. Black kyanite is the most rapid transfer of energy in the Earth stars down to the Earth absolute quick as possible, which also makes it for another very important pivotal surge protector, particularly when it comes to very high yield vibrational configurations. Black kyanite is quite simply an absolute must for virtually all light tech for that matter, but for this reason, because the rapid bridging of the energy in the Earth also prevents the energetic overload saturation, so it has a constant discharge for reprocessing, which is very much a very nice contingency for efficiency. And also, black kyanite works very quickly to ground to the Earth to, quite simply, bridge the high frequency energy into the Earth to make the magic real, so that's quite crucial. Then orange kyanite over here is the most rapid transfer energy through the sacrum, which is very much a creative center that is oftentimes stagnated by the debris of the human experience, obviously. So rapidly bridging that capacity to one's creativity is, of course, another nod to one's sovereign capacity as I am creator in the earth realm. Then green kyanite is a very powerful heart chakra bridger, a very high yield that bridges past patterns of blockages and any kind of things that would be obstruction there. Then blue kyanite is a very fantastic third eye stimulant that mitigates the cross interference between the left and right hemispheres, once again, very effectively, very high yield. So when you combine the 4 pitches together, it makes also for another layer of etheric Teflon with all that rapid rerouting, rebuffering of energy towards ideal configurations. It's very, very discouraging for further stagnancies to compromise the field and cause a disruption, aka a dis-ease of any variety. So that also plays another role too for the transferability of this entire ambitious superconductor to make the transfer energy very, very rapid, very efficient through quite the dynamic lateral effect consequence of energy transference through the we'll go ahead and just stop right there. That's a very deep theoretical dissertation, back on topic for cataloging, but you get the idea. Back to more pragmatic closing statement of the kyanites is it will quite simply works very quickly to bridge the energy patterns to make the magic real and very efficient. And once again, another layer of etheric protection and Teflon that's very discouraging to constantly reroute, rebuffer the ideal configuration at the speed of quantum light. And that actually would be it. So, This construct, technically a wearable talisman, is quite the ambitious endeavor that these kind of configurations in a wearable format do not roll out every day or even every week or even every month for that matter. So this is a very, very special exotic high tier configuration that is for a very, very special recipient. That is quite the dynamic powerhouse and obviously hits every octave quite powerfully, quite effectively, with a very, very high yield divine resonance sheer intensity of honoring an archetypal name of Divine Ascension Illumination. It better have the stones to back it. Pun very much intended. Well, 1,000 blessings and may the force be with us all.